Story 1. The Clown at the End of the Driveway. My encounter with one of those crazy clowns happened just 3 days ago. While most people are seeing them from the safety of their cars, mine was much more disturbing. I live in Massachusetts, on a property surrounded by trees with a long, winding driveway leading to the road. That afternoon, I was outside, cutting a drooping branch from a tree near the entrance to my property. That's when I first saw him. A man dressed as a clown, walking down the side of the road. He slowed to a stop directly at the start of my driveway. He then very gradually turned his head to face me, though his body remained facing the road. I had to give him credit. His costume was terrifying, with a mask that looked like it belonged in a horror movie. I just chuckled and smiled in his direction. Judging by other people's stories, I expected him to bluff charge me, but he didn't. He just turned his head back to the road and kept walking. I would have said something, but I guess I just didn't care enough. That night, after my usual routine of locking the shed and her turning off the outside lights, I went inside to make dinner. I thought I heard something, so I opened the kitchen window a little, but all I could hear was the wind. I shut it completely and went back to my food. A moment later, I almost had a heart attack when a heavy, aggressive knocking came from that same window. My body went into full panic mode. I was shaking, and my heart was thumping in my chest. I grabbed the knife from the counter and forced myself to look out the window, but it was too dark to see anything past the glass. I struggled to summon the courage to turn on the patio light and go outside. I walked to the sliding glass door in my kitchen, put my finger on the light switch, and waited for a good 5 seconds before finally flicking it on. The horror I was afraid to find came prematurely. Before I could even step outside, the patio light exposed the same clown from earlier, standing right outside the glass door. His head was tilted like a curious dog's as he stared at me from behind the ugly mask. Looking back, I probably should have opened the door and stabbed the guy, or at least threatened him. It's easy to say that now. Instead, I simply ran upstairs to call the police. From my bedroom, I could hear banging on the heavy glass door downstairs. It got worse as the clown started pounding with both hands, replacing the slow, steady knocking with a frantic assault. Then came the screaming, like a patient from a psych ward, howling over the sounds of the pounding. I felt like I was going to die. Every minute that passed felt like 5. Finally, the screaming and banging stopped. I heard a familiar voice yell, "What the hell are you doing? Get the fuck out of here!" I looked out the window and saw Marv, my neighbor, walking over with a rifle. When I went outside to thank him, he told me the clown had run off into the woods. The cops arrived a few minutes later, took my description, did a quick sweep of the property, and left. Marv let me crash at his place for the night. We don't mess around when it comes to our safety. Story 2. Lockdown. In the midst of all this clown craziness, an Instagram account was created, supposedly by clowns who threatened to come to my school. The threat was taken seriously. Police were called, and even the SWAT team showed up. The clowns said they would arrive around 11 a.m. When 11 a.m. rolled around, everyone was freaking out. I, along with a couple of friends, figured it was a fake threat. But then, at around 11:15, the panicked voice of my vice principal came over the loudspeaker. "We are now going into lockdown. Please shut the doors and lock the windows." I started to get a little freaked out, but kept my cool. We all huddled in the corner of the room, out of sight from the door, just like in the drills. We stayed there in silence for an hour and a half. Eventually, the vice principal announced that we were free to go home. I gathered my things and started my walk home, which is about a mile from the school. A minute into the walk, I jammed in my earbuds. I have to pass a couple of strips of forest, which, on this day of all days, freaked me out a little. About 5 minutes into my walk, as I was passing the forest, I saw someone wearing very bright colors. I looked away, telling myself it was just in my head. But I looked back and saw it again. He was wearing white and yellow polka-dotted baggy pants and a yellow button-up shirt, both ripped and dirty. He had on a mask with red hair puffing out of it. His head was tilted, and he was just standing there, staring at me. Then he started to laugh hysterically and run towards me. I screamed, dropped my bag, and ran back to the school, where I found a police officer. I told him what happened, and he cursed under his breath. He and a bunch of other officers got in their cars and drove over to the area. I'm not sure if they caught the clown, but I hope they did. Rumors went around that a clown did, in fact, walk up to the front door of the school and threaten to come in. I didn't see it myself, but it's possible this was the same one. The police searched the area, but the clown was likely long gone, hiding back in the woods. That means he remains free to terrorize more people. Story 3. Shortcut Through the Woods. It was Friday night, around 1 a.m., and I was walking home a little buzzed from my friend's house. I stopped at an intersection where a trail leads into the woods. It's a definite shortcut that I always take during the day, but I was wary of going in there at night. Still, figuring I'd save 10 minutes, I went for it, using my phone's flashlight to navigate. About 50 yards in, I heard noises up ahead. It sounded like people. Normally, I wouldn't find this too weird. It was a Friday night, and sometimes kids go into the woods to smoke. But with all the clown stuff going on, I feared the worst. I covered my phone's light and tiptoed behind a big tree to hide as the sounds got closer. It soon became apparent that it was 2 people. I tried to remain as quiet as possible, hoping they didn't see my light. They weren't talking. I could only hear their shoes hitting the leaves on the trail. Then, right around where I was standing, they stopped. I got that painful, sinking feeling in my stomach. Daringly, I peeked my head around the tree and saw 2 people standing in the darkness. I immediately recognized their bizarre attire. They were 2 clowns. It didn't feel real. I knew they must have seen my light. That's why they had stopped. The question was, what were they going to do to me? It was the most tense moment of my life, but it only lasted about 20 seconds. Then, I heard them continue walking down the trail. When they were far enough away, I ran for the other side of the woods, not caring how much noise I made. My house was just across the street. I went around back, unlocked the door with our secret key, and made a point of locking it right away and shutting the blinds. I walked over to the living room to shut those blinds when I saw them. The 2 clowns, standing across the street at the edge of the woods, facing my house. They were still as statues. I woke my mum, but just like in a horror movie. By the time she went to look, they were gone. I tried to go to sleep, and being a little buzzed helped. In my bed, I faced the wall for a while, but got uncomfortable and flipped over, so I had a view of my whole room. I couldn't stop thinking about them. The curiosity was killing me. I had to look out my window. Just then, a thud hit the glass. It was the sound of death to my ears. I knew what it was. I froze, closed my eyes, and pretended to be asleep. The thuds grew more intense, and I feared the window would break. Finally, I looked. Under the blinds, in the small section that wasn't blocked, I saw a clown with his head tilted to the side, looking right at me. That's all it took. I broke down screaming, ran to my mum's room, and cried to her like a baby that there was a clown outside my window. She took me seriously. She grabbed the pepper spray from under her bed, marched to my bedroom, and once again, the clown was gone. But my mum believed me. She didn't give me some cliché line about seeing things or having too much to drink. The next day, she called the cops and reported that clowns were harassing us in the area. But that wasn't the end. Last night, I saw a clown again, standing across the street by the woods, staring at my house. I still feel sick and paranoid. Next time it happens, I'm getting a picture or a video to prove this is all real.